Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Real with Jack and Cindy. I'm Jack Wallace.
Gosh, you look better than you've ever looked, Jack.
I'm Cindy Morrison.
I'm Jack Wallace. I'm the real Jack Wallace. Hey, everybody.
We do have fun, don't we?
We do.
Don't we?
We're so glad you're here. This is one of the most exciting episodes for me.
Good.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So we've been working for quite a while on this and talked about it. And now we're looking to get people to start signing up for Zoom, 4-month Zoom. So once a month meeting. This is for people that are wanting to get ready to buy a house.
And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. Maybe you got a divorce and you've been renting. Maybe you've been in your house for a long time. You're not really sure what's the next step if you want to scale up or scale down.
Or what's possible. Maybe this is about learning what is possible for you. If you already own a home, but you kind of would like something a little bigger, a little smaller, whatever that is, we'll help you with that process. And, let's face it, people don't buy houses often. And so it's always kind of like overwhelming to even think about what they do. So,
and it's easy as a real estate agent to forget that people aren't buying homes every 3 to 5 years.
Right. And so we're really excited about it. And then at the end of the program, when you've graduated and you're finished with this, then, if you would like to use us to help you find a house, that's one thing where we can help you find somebody, or, you may already have a realtor. We'll figure that out. But the most important thing is we just want to help people to be educated, to make the right decisions. And, for me, it's even down to some things like, how are you going to take title? How should you prepare? Like, should it be in your name? Should it be in an LLC? Or a trust? Are you doing a loan? So it has to be in your name, but then how do you do the deed? I mean, like, there's so many factors that you really should know, instead of whenever you're in the middle of it and they say, how do you want this? How do you want to be put on the contract? Which is what most of the time happens. And you say, well, just put my name.
Right.
So some of these things we're going to prepare you for, but I'd love if we could, for those of you that are not interested in this program, this may not be your podcast. So but we're going to kind of go through a bullet point and go through what will be covered, so you kind of have an idea of how intensive it is and what we're talking about.
And this is why on our social media, on our podcast, we are all about education.
100%.
Because if you are a very educated consumer, when you go in to work with a real estate professional, that is a dynamic duo right there.
Absolutely. And you need to know what you can do, what you can go out and do, because if you're buying a house, it is a huge decision. It is you are putting a commitment for something, and you need to know what you're signing up for. It should not be I went and looked at a couple of houses and went, that's the one, and now I'm doing it.
Yes.
So the first month, first of all, we'll ask anyone who is interested, if you will send us some kind of a DM or something that you're really interested in taking the class, and just like some contact information so we can talk back and forth and kind of figure out, how to put you together with. We may do one group, we may do multiple groups based on the response. So like if we have enough people that are in one situation, maybe we'll put them into one Zoom. So the commitment is just one time every month for 4 months.
Yes. Which is doable.
It's doable.
You can do that if you really, really, really want to be a homeowner.
And we'll send you the workbook, it's a thick workbook. And you'll have that to really work through in between classes. So, and then we'll go through it together and answer questions and do that. So, month one is really just getting financially fit. And the other thing I want to say is, some people are going to have to do all this, but you're going to have to really work on this first one for a while. So it doesn't mean at the end of the 4 months that everybody's going to be ready to buy a house. What it will mean at the end of the 4 months is you're going to understand what you need to do to buy a house, or if you are ready.
Because it is a financial, if you're renting, you're paying somebody else's mortgage. But if you're owning your own home, there are financial down payment, you've got your closing costs, you've got upkeep of the house, plus your mortgage.
Absolutely. Most realtors talk so much about buying and selling a house that they don't talk about owning a house.
Mhm.
So we'll get to that. So month one, getting financially fit, it's understanding your income. Now, what do we mean by understanding your income? If you're a freelancer and you don't have a steady income, there are loans for that. They're more difficult. But
If you're a real estate agent, we're not guaranteed a salary when we wake up in the morning.
it's actually amazing how many people do not have, a steady paycheck. It's not, a lot of us are in that situation. We're 1099. So then there are people that do have a straight paycheck. And so really understanding how your income is going to affect what's available for you.
And income can also include child support. It could be if your parents are helping supplement you. I mean, there's a lot of, do you have an extra job? There's a lot of different ways that you can have that income. We need to look at all of those.
And, like a gift letter is going to be something that we're going to have to deal with when it comes to a gift. So once we know that's going to help us, we're going to know what to do. And then the other one that everyone hates to talk about, but we all need to be talking about, is your debt.
Ouch.
Now, it's not a judgment zone.
No.
Like,
because we've both been there.
We've both been there. And not there now. I will say that. So I really want to say there's hope. You really can, there's hope. But your debt is really, most of the time, is what is holding people back. And, it's there was an amazing thing the other day, which I'm sure not everyone saw, but Coachella was recently the concert festival, and 60% of the people that went to Coachella financed it.
What?
Yeah. 60%.
I mean, I know it's expensive, but I would have never thought of financing a music festival.
But that tells you where that tells you where we are. I mean, and I think we've all, you buy the Louis Vuitton on credit, you should be only buying Louis Vuitton if you can buy it twice and not have a problem. Right. I mean, like sorry, Louis. And then there's also the way that you live sometimes when you're not anticipating buying a house, and then you change when you go, oh, I do want to buy a house in a year or 2 years. So I don't need to spend money on this. I don't need that. I don't need that subscription to to a thing that I don't use anymore.
Right.
So really looking at your debt honestly, and then figuring out how to work that. And then the other part we're going to work on is the affordability. So affordability to each person is different. And what does it really mean to afford a home? One of my big pet peeves, and I've said it before, and if you haven't listened to the podcast, you may not have heard me say this, so I'll say it again. It's really important that people understand, yes, the principal and interest payment is fixed for the length of the loan. So let's say you've got a 30-year mortgage. For 30 years, every month, the principal and the interest are going to stay constant. But your insurance and your taxes don't.
Can change by a lot.
They can change by a lot, and they will increase. So yes, you're kind of inflation proofing in one respect, because in rental, they can up it as much as they want, basically, and market demand. But you still have to be ready. You're going to have some increases through the years. And I think over my house loan, over 15 or 15 years, it's increased. I think the payments increased like 200 and something a month. I mean, that's pretty substantial, but I mean, it's just been natural insurance and tax increases. So again, you're locking in part of it, but it doesn't mean that and I hear people say that all the time, that, oh, it'll just stay the same. Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's part of it. And then again, what is your realistic home buying budget? Like, really not being house poor. If something happens and you don't have income for 2 months, 3 months, can you still stay in the house?
And when you're looking at your income and your budget and expenses, if you go every morning on your way to work through Starbucks and buy a $7 coffee, guess what? That's 7 times 5,
35.
Yeah, 35, but then times 4 for the month.
130.
Yeah. So
How am I doing that?
I don't know. His mind doesn't work the same way mine is. Mine's like, I don't know. Now I'm hungry.
And then
for
130
Starbucks.
times 12, that's 1,200, 360, 1,560 a year.
$1,500 a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not if you go on the weekend. So
I could be wrong. I did all that in my head, but that's
Yeah.
what
I don't do math in my
But
head,
think about that. That is amazing.
But all of those things need to be on your budget, because if not, you'll look up and go, where did $1,500 go this year?
And that is one of my biggest pet peeves is when people say, I can't afford it. The joke is, they say, how many people do you meet in Utica Square telling you they can't afford to buy a house while they're sipping out of a Starbucks cup?
Yeah.
I mean, and it not judging, but it's like, okay, priorities. Let's just look at your priorities. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's part of it. And then also your debt to income ratio.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And you're going to hear the DTI. Again, I hate you. My big pet peeve also is we use these abbreviations and we don't say what they're. Debt to income ratio. So basically it's the bank has a standard, the loan has a standard of what they will allow you to have as your debt to income. So how much debt do you have compared to how much you bring in every month?
And this could be college debt. This could be credit card debt. I mean, there's a lot of different types. Your current mortgage debt. So, that is going to affect everything you do. If your debt to income ratio is really skewed, your debt is higher, your income is lower, your credit score is going to go down. And guess what? When you go buy a car, your interest rates are going to be higher.
And really, again, I think what they set for your debt to income, really, we should be worrying. We should try to be more conservative than that, because you just never know. But, I always think of it this way. I try to explain it. Debt to income is basically cash flow. What's your cash flow? Because you've got to service the debt at a certain number, and then you bring in this much money. So what's the difference in between? And why is that number important? Because you're going to have to use that number to survive on, thrive on, and pay for your house.
Yep.
So
exactly right.
So that's the other thing. Then the other thing too, this is what scares the hell out of everybody, but your credit score. Really and the thing about credit score is you can change it. It takes time to change your credit score. And for those of you that we need to work on it, we can help you figure out how to work on it, how to monitor, how to make it kind of a game, like, and how to make that work. And then there's other people that credit score is messed up because they just carry too much but they have a lot of money in savings. So maybe we need to take that savings amount down, pay that debt off, stop paying the high interest credit card debt. You're not collecting much interest on that savings, have enough for an emergency fund still. And then when it comes to buying a house, maybe you ask for more money from the seller on something. I mean, we can play with that, but really looking at that and making sure that you're not. And I have a tendency to do this. I mean, I don't do it anymore because I learned a lot about this, but there's that fear of if I don't have enough cash, then I'm really going to be in trouble. But the truth is you can pay those credit cards off and you still have the ability to use the credit cards in an emergency.
Exactly right. And credit cards and debt are not a bad thing.
No.
I just had a couple.
If you can handle it.
Yes. I just had a couple buy a house in their mid-30s, and he had no credit score.
Oh my.
No credit score.
The Dave Ramsey thing is a problem.
Yeah. She had a credit score, but they, had some issues between them, of just her being on the mortgage and not the two of them. And
Which
they have right of survivorship and all that. But, the first thing I said, put him on one of your joint credit cards. Your credit is amazing. You're paying everything off. Let him start building that. Let him get a credit card. But he'd always done debit cards and cash for everything, being fiscally responsible.
And I love Dave Ramsey on so many ways. And I think there's so much, if you have a problem that you need to get a control of, I think that system can be great. But when you go to all cash and you have no credit, then the bank has no history. And the other thing, it kind of makes sense because it's kind of like if you've never used credit and then we give you a bunch of credit. I mean, people think, well, I should be, I've been the most responsible because I haven't. Well, you haven't had a drink in how many years? Maybe there's a reason why, like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So like, I think that they look at that as, did you have a problem that you couldn't handle? And so you're not used to managing. I mean, there's a reason why they're hesitant about that.
So please, please, please do not think credit cards and debt are a bad thing. They can be a very good thing if used responsibly.
But if you're in college and taking a credit card out and you're using it irresponsibly and not paying it off every month, you are setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Yep.
And if you have already done that, stop spending on it and get it paid. Seriously. No more Starbucks on your credit card that you can't make the payment.
Right.
That you can't pay it off.
Agreed.
Like, you just can't keep doing that.
If you don't have a job, be very cautious about the credit card usage. You need to know where your money's coming from. I mean, Peyton didn't get his first credit card until he got his first big boy job. He'd always had jobs since he was 16. And, Marlo's now in med school. So she's got several years here, but we went ahead and got her a credit card in her name because we're already paying for certain things. Just put those on the credit card. We'll pay it off. And so you can start building your credit. Yeah.
And then you're monitoring it too a little bit. Not a little bit, probably a lot.
A whole heck of a lot.
But then the other thing too is, like, in our business, I like having credit so that I can use it. Like if I have to pay for signs and photography and a computer and those things, I can get the points. But there are times too where I don't have a closing for a month or two, and then I have a bunch of them and I use the credit card maybe for a month or so, and then I pay that off once I get that payout. So it's not like, I mean, again, you can get to where you're so afraid of everything that you're not using it. There is a reason why using it responsibly is a good thing. It's just, you have to learn what responsible is. Buying stuff you do not need is not responsible.
So we're going to cover that.
Yeah. Sorry, tangent, but that is, and you know what? Some of this
and we're back.
Some of this will be like this because these are conversations people don't have anymore. We're so afraid of having the conversation that we don't have it. Then the budget, we'll work on how you can do a budget. Some people, they don't do well on budgets, like they just don't, and that's okay. But for a lot of people, I think it's important. My dad used to make me do this. He used to make me occasionally take a journal and write down everything I've spent, like every penny I spent for 2 or 3 days or a week, and then go back and read everything. And like, I figured out one time that I was spending like this is a long time ago, I was spending like $6 a day on iced tea. So now imagine, we were talking about Starbucks. That was a lot of iced tea. That was a lot of iced tea back then, but it was stupid. I mean, it was kind of eye-opening to me that, maybe I had one iced tea a day, but like I was spending that much money. And so for me at that time, again, that was $72 a week times 4 times 12. And I'd been doing that for years. So it's like, you just don't even think about where your money's going sometimes. And sometimes just being conscious of it is really important.
Absolutely.
But we'll do a very detailed, how you can do budget and help you through that. And then we're going to make you pull your credit report,
which you can do for free once a year.
And it's really important. And we'll give you the website to do that with. And, it is different. It is different than what is on your credit card. Your credit card, when you get your report, your credit is one score, but it's not the same as what you're going to go to for a mortgage. And a lot of people go in to get a mortgage thinking that is their credit score. And it's, you're probably in the same bracket, but it is different. Like going to get a car loan, it's more like for that.
Right.
And then the other thing is, like, I am a geek and I have a really high credit score now. And I'm so proud of it because I didn't used to.
You've worked hard for that.
I really am proud of that. But the reality is, you don't need nearly as high as mine is. Once you're over like a 750, it's like you're golden.
Yeah.
So people get real caught up in like working to get past. It's like, that's fine, but really your gold standard is like a 750, around that range and up. And there's not much benefit beyond that other than feel good about it. Right. So we'll talk a lot about that. But also, you can get into FHA now for a lot lower credit score than most people think. There are programs for people that don't have perfect credit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing too. I think sometimes people think their credit isn't as, they think it's terrible and it isn't as bad as they think in order to get a loan. So we'll look at that and we'll talk about it.
Awesome.
And wherever your credit score is, you're still welcome.
Yeah.
Wherever it is. It may take you a year or 2 or 3 to get to the place, but you need to start it now.
Right.
Okay. So then.
All right. So month 2.
Month 2 is how much do you need for a down payment and closing costs? So we've done the work in 1 to figure out what we can afford. We've talked maybe to a lender. We've talked about all those things, or, get a basic idea. And then we're going to look at the programs, like if you're an FHA buyer or a VA or, whatever those are conventional, how much percentage you need to put down and what that's going to cost you. Closing costs are a very interesting thing because people don't understand what closing costs are. And so we'll really break that down. So closing costs are the cost to close the loan, the cost to close the house. So that is what we call escrows, which is they want to hold. Now, Cindy, why do they want to hold a year's worth of hazard insurance and taxes on somebody?
To make sure it actually is paid.
Yes. So like some of those will explain why you're going to have to pay that, because you're going to have, that has to be in the escrow so that the bank is assured that at the end of the year, they got the money to pay it. They collected up front. You're going to have the different types of loans that we'll look at all the different ones. And you know what? That's really a big one because people don't have any idea how many different types of loans there are available.
And there are some that will fit exactly like a glove with your situation, but you need to be able to look at all of them to see which one is your best option.
Absolutely. And then down payment assistance options. That's one that people don't really think about is you may be able to get money for taking a class. You may be able to get money from a relative as a gift, as a parent, that wants to kind of give a little bit of your inheritance to you in order to help you get going. I mean, there's all different things that we can look at with that. And then again, using gift funds legally, that's a big one and under the lending laws. So there are ways to do that. And people want to know why it's anyone's business, why you have to write a letter to say this was a gift and this is why the money is in there. Well, they'd like to know that you weren't selling drugs.
Yes. If you're coming forward with the cash. And also that.
Or you didn't win a lottery, like it's there's than just one time thing. Yeah.
Yes. But there's also, we were talking about gifts. Darn it.
It's okay. You'll come back to it. So then you're going to set your down payment savings goal. If you don't already have the money, like we'll look at, okay, so if I'm being able to save, and here's one of the tricks that I always like to do and tell people, let's start living like you're in your new house. So if we've figured out your payment is going to be $2,000, let's back out what your current rent is. Let's say you're paying $1,200 in rent. So that's $800 difference. Let's start putting that $800 in a separate account to build up for your down payment and hopefully more, but let's put that in there for your down payment. But what that's also doing, it's giving you a test run of whether or not $2,000 is really affordable for you a month.
Yes. And I figured out what it was. The other thing is to see that it's really a gift. It's in writing that you are not going to have to pay that back.
Yes. Yes.
That suddenly, now you have debt to income ratio because daddy's wanting $50,000.
Oh, that's interesting.
Back.
Yeah. So it isn't like a friend loans you $10,000 to make it look like you have $10,000, but then you have to turn around and pay them back.
Right.
Yeah.
It came back. See, it took me a minute.
That's good because and then we talked about your saving strategy. So to me, that really, all of this is strategy, but I really do. I want you to test run your saving because it's like, you don't want to, again, buy into something that maybe you should have backed off a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Strategery.
Strategery.
That's one of our
And sometimes you figure out, you know what, I can get away with a little more and maybe that's okay. So, and then again, local assistance programs are really big. We're going to really look at, is there anything that's available for you for that?
Month 3,
preparing to buy. So this is when it gets fun. So, the pre-approval. Why don't you
So
talk about
important.
how important and why the pre-approval is important?
So I'm going to give you an example. The other day, I had a guy who called me, wanted to see one of my luxury listings. And I said, great, send me over the pre-approval letter. Because all of my buyers, all my sellers, I tell them, I'm going to make sure everybody who walks through your house is pre-approved, that they can actually afford the house they're walking through. And the guy got extremely offended that I thought he couldn't afford the house. It had nothing to do with that. It was, this is what I've told the seller I'm going to do. This is how I make sure that you can indeed afford the house that we're going to look at, because this is not a hobby for me. I'm not taking you on a house tour. I'm taking you on a business deal to see if this is a house you like and would like to make an offer on. And third, safety for me, because I didn't know this person. He'd given me a name, but that's the only information I had, and would not have met him until we were at the house. He signed a buyer broker agreement and we walked inside.
Well, absolutely. And then you want a ready to go buyer. And if they don't have a pre-approval, then we have to go through a whole process to get them approved and then your person, sometimes people will present an offer without although now you have to check it in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But they used to present without a pre-approval, and they would say they'd get it and you wouldn't get it for 3 or 4 days. And you've committed to something.
I won't even accept it if there is not a pre-approval letter, because I've been burned before.
And so you as a buyer need to have a pre-approval and be ready to go for that seller to take you seriously.
So not only did he need that to be able to see the house, but he needed that to be able to make an offer. And his last thing was, that's all right, I'll just call one of my realtor friends and they'll take me through the house. And I said, and I will ask them for the pre-approval letter. You have to give that, whether I show you the house or somebody else.
Do you think anyone ever calls you to
No, not a soul. So
nothing to do. If you're the listing agent, you're going to know.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well,
but,
and you know
that
what?
Pre-approval is so important. And a local lender, please, local lender, because somebody can go into some of these online and put in a lot of information that's not accurate and get a pre-approval for something that they can't afford or shouldn't afford.
Either a local lender or a lender that you has like a reference from. So like, somebody, if your parents use somebody in your hometown that can do loans in where you are, that could be a good option. So again, choosing the right lender and loan for you. Home inspections. We're going to talk about why the home inspection is so important. And we're going to talk about when it's a good buy and when it's a good buy.
Yeah.
Like it often is a good buy. Okay. So then we're going to go into how to avoid costly mistakes making an offer.
Yes.
So strategic for offers. That's a big one. And then we're going to get into what you need to get your loan pre-approval. 2 years of tax returns, 2 months of bank statements, the last 2 to 3 pay stubs, photo ID, and a social security number. Now, that is if you are a regular employee. If you're a 1099, we may have to do things differently. But those are basic ideas of what
and the lender will help you with that.
Absolutely. And then month 4, becoming a smart homeowner. This is where we get into owning a home and not just about buying the home. Making sure you have things set back in case there are repairs. Maybe it's good to buy a home warranty, to ask for a home warranty so that you are covered on some of those things. What does your homeowner's insurance cover? Do you need flood insurance?
And things that you need to do every month for maintenance, like the little cover on your outlets or your hoses before the freeze. Yeah. Todd and I forgot that on our first house. We you don't know what you don't know.
Well, it's been so crazy with the weather lately. That kind of stuff really makes a big deal. Now, the biggest thing we're going to get to with this is now is a part of your long-term wealth, real estate, asset building portfolio.
Yes.
And that is really what you're going to be looking at, building that equity, whether or not it's better to make a little bit more payment or make an extra payment, or if your interest rate is so good that maybe you just want to pay what it is and use that money. But like really looking at the strategy of this mortgage and what you can do to really bump it up.
Yep.
Because if you make one extra payment a year, again, you can save $100,000 potentially more. I mean, depending on your loan and what your amounts are, but it is staggering how much you can save in interest or in the number of years until you have it paid off.
And we will be posting a lot about this class when it is starting.
Absolutely.
So you'll want to message us and let us know if you're interested. So then we can even send you a direct email of when this class is starting, because I think it is going to be so beneficial for so many people out there.
Absolutely. So the most important thing right now is we just want everyone to let us know if you're interested, or if you have someone who you think it would be good for. I mean, if you're a parent and you want this for your grown children, you know, or your 18-year-old to get started. I mean, that may be a good thing, but we're so excited. And I think we're going to really help a lot of people. And we're excited. And I'm sorry we went into so much detail about what it is, but I think it's important, you know, like, we're not just talking about, this isn't like a come talk to us for 30 minutes so we can convince you to use a house. This is really, truly an in-depth, getting you ready, all the way ready.
And if you live someplace else, you don't live in Oklahoma, we have a global referral network that we can help you find a great, eligible, educated realtor where you live. So we can help you with that.
Because one of the strategies of this is using a professional, because we are professionals. We believe in our business. And that is one of the best strategies, is making sure that you have someone who has got your back and is looking out for your best interest.
Absolutely. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up. We will see you next week. Hopefully we'll see you in the new homebuyers class.
So DM us. Let us know if you're interested. Thanks, guys.